Welcome to Beyond Sports. Well, we have a great episode lined up this week. I am your host, the Fitted Nuggets fan. With me is my co-host, Bob.
Hey.
Well, we have a few segments lined up. We have Nuggets Now to get us started. We're going to be covering this past week of the Nuggets action. Then we'll be moving on to another scintillating episode of Nuggets Knowledge.
Great word.
And even better segment. You know, every week I look forward to this. I think it's the trivia side of things. I think I just get really into that. But either way, we'll have a great segment of that for our second one. And then we'll be finishing out our week here with an interview with Parker Thomas. Really thankful to have him in the studio this week. Really great guy. You know, really wanted everyone to be able to check out that segment to finish out the show. But first, we're going to be covering the Nuggets for this past week here. So, you know, kind of a mixed bag. We're back to the 2-1, 3-1 consistency that we've typically seen throughout this entire season with the Nuggets. Starting off, Spurs at Nuggets. You know, it ended the way it should have ended. But, man, just don't ever expect the Nuggets to cover the spread. Let me tell you.
Yeah, for sure. I've never bet on it.
Yeah. I will say, though, before we dive too much into the Nuggets stats, I got to give a big shout-out to Wemby. You know, Wemby has proven that he is a very solid rookie, coming here with really high expectations. And personally, he's one of my favorite candidates for Defensive Player of the Year this year.
9 blocks.
Insane. And Jokic, to his credit, did a really good job of containing Wemby. Wemby shot pretty horribly. What was his stats on that?
9 for 29 from the field, 23 points, 15 rebounds, and 8 assists.
Yeah, I want the Nuggets to take full advantage of him not having a full roster around him, because once Wemby has a guy or two similar to what Jokic
tough.
has, it's going to be crazy. I mean, it's going to make the West insanely competitive, and it already is with teams in a similar trajectory like the Thunder and the Timberwolves. But not to get too sidetracked, you know, one thing that impressed me was Jokic really stepped up in this game. I've mentioned, you know, I want to say either last week or a couple of weeks ago, just needing him to be able to come in and drop 30-plus points in a game when it's close, and we need him to drop those points, and he did just that, 42, 16, and 6.
Yep.
It's exactly what we want from Jokic, so really happy with that. But, you know, the rest of the game, I just didn't like that they got it within 5.
I didn't either. They should have blown them away, but they just didn't. And I don't know. I think a lot of that had to do with the struggles coming from specifically Reggie Jackson and KCP. KCP had a really bad game, 1 for 8, and then he answered right back and had 2 really good games. Not criticizing him, but it just doesn't help when you're missing Jamal Murray and you got to use your backup point guard, Reggie, who's not the best, unfortunately. Went 4 for 13 from the field, only had 9 points. Only had 3 assists, too, which I think that's something that we've kind of taken Reggie for granted, is he does normally do a great job playmaking whenever he's asked to start for Murray. And I think these last couple stretches of games without Murray, he just hasn't been able to playmake as well. And I think that's hurt the Nuggets a lot.
Yeah, Reggie looks like he's lost his rhythm on the offensive end. You know, coming to start
definitely.
This year, he came in hot. He looked great when Murray was out, especially in that starter role specifically.
He looked much better as a starter than he did as a bench player.
He transitioned back to the bench and just wouldn't produce.
But now he's just not doing that.
Now he can't do either.
Yeah.
And that's a big concern heading into these playoffs, especially when we're going to need somebody like that who is going to have to occasionally take the game over. I will say some of the positives, maybe not specifically from this game so much, but even in this game you can still kind of see the impact that Christian Braun has made. We're definitely starting to see Christian Braun return more to the form that we saw from him last year, which I think is huge. Personally, just with how he's played this whole year, it's been really tough watching that just not really improve year over year. Just kind of the same, especially regular season the same, but we're starting to see him ramp up. We're seeing him dial it in. 7 assists in this game, 5 points. Only shooting 1 for 5 isn't great, but that 7 assists I love to see. And he's just one of those guys who just kind of fills in the gaps.
Yeah, and I think he's incredibly important to the Nuggets championship run. Last year, I didn't know this. For some reason, I had just inflated his stats in my head, but he only averaged 3.2 points, 2.1 rebounds, and 0.6 assists during the entire playoff run last year.
Wow.
And I felt like he was a key part to all of that.
I think he really turned it on more towards the end.
I do too.
I think that's really kind of where that comes in. But still, I mean, that is a great statistic to pull up, especially when we're talking about somebody like Christian Brown, who's currently averaging significantly more than that. And we have seen it. Like, I'm talking, sitting here now, saying it's.
I mean, he was
not necessarily a positive.
He was like 6th or 7th in Finals MVP betting odds at one point.
That's crazy.
And
I don't know about all that.
I mean, I didn't either. But he had those 2 great games against Miami
people believed him.
in the first 2 games.
He did. And he was a big part of the wins. Don't get me wrong. He showed up when we really needed him to.
I think
he's going to do that again.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, to me, his impact greatly outweighed his stats. And I think I really hope he can hit it the same stride as he did last year.
I think we'll see that as well. And then Peyton Watson joining him. Peyton Watson with 2 blocks versus the Spurs. But moving on, now we look at the Clippers versus Nuggets. Clippers getting a very, very narrow victory, evening the series on the year. I don't know if I'm worried about the Clippers, but I'm also not worried about the Clippers. I mean, right now my dogs are Timberwolves and Suns. I don't want to see them in the playoffs. But the Clippers are showing that they're tough. I think with the score as close as it was, plus no Murray, I know they didn't have Kawhi. I think no Murray hurts us a lot more than it hurts the Clippers in that situation. I know Kawhi's great, don't get me wrong, but the Nuggets' dynamic and the flow of their team, especially playing teams like that, Murray's just that much more important. But one thing, it's just been all year, the bench.
Yeah, I mean, they just didn't. They didn't show up to this game, really. Braun had another decent game. I mean, he was 7, 8, and 3 with a steal. He was also +7 in his minutes. And I should say, back to the Spurs game just real quick, Reggie Jackson was +8 in his minutes, so it wasn't all bad, but...
Can't get too tight into the plus-minus.
I know, but I just wanted to point that out. I don't want to hate on him too much. Anyways, Jokic had 36 in this game, 36, 17, and 10, which we rarely see that stat line, and he loses.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I just think missing Murray really, really hurts the team. And hopefully he can get back healthy, and I think he has. I mean, he had not a great game against Atlanta, but he came back and he played. So hopefully he's on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Murray's coming back in. Good time for us. Right in time for the playoffs. Getting a couple of games under his belt. Getting his groove back. Ready for round 1. I think the timing is good. And I like Coach Malone's commitment to making sure Murray was healthy. Murray, obviously felt fine after that tweaking of an ankle. But us and the rest of the staff know that can be bad. And
and then it extended to his knee. Because he's been out with some knee soreness and knee pain after that ankle injury. So it just goes to show how you tweak one thing, it could lead to another.
Yeah, and an unsung hero from this Clippers-Denver Nuggets game, Aaron Gordon.
Yeah.
Being, the great teammate that he is, 18 points, 2 blocks, a steal, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, just really stuffing the stat sheet across the board. And again... I know a lot of fans are going to say this out there, the slip at the end. Now, you had an interesting take on that.
I just don't know what
makes the bucket.
I don't know what his plan was. The way that...
Dunk the ball.
Well, I get that, time. But the way his stride, the way he took that step, he was under the basket, and there was a guy, maybe 2 on him. And, he slipped when he got to that step. But I didn't see an angle that he could have taken that shot. And I'm fine with him taking that shot. I think he deserves to take that shot. I'm in 9 times out of 10. I don't think that's the end goal for him. I just think the stride might have been a little too long. Because even if he would have landed, I don't know where he was going.
Yeah, and he might have been looking to draw the foul. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah, there is a lot of stuff
that could have come from that, and just kind of the way his body language moves. I think he was trying to draw that foul. I just don't like Aaron Gordon with the ball in that situation, but I don't want to take away from his output in this game. Definitely a reliable guy. KCP stepping up to the plate. Kind of odd to know that he's broke his scoring record for the Nuggets twice now. He had 22 the other night and improved from there. And then just last night, or against the Hawks, 24 points.
Okay.
So pretty cool to see.
Nice.
Yeah, so, with this Clippers game, the biggest concern is letting the Clippers be this close. It's hard to really judge this game without Kawhi, without Murray.
MPJ hasn't really, unfortunately, he didn't really shoot well against the Spurs. didn't shoot well against the Clippers, and I think that's the biggest thing when Murray's out is we need him to step up a little bit, and in these past 2 games he hasn't, and I think that's why they've been that close.
Yeah, and we're looking at the bench, and you've got 5 total players who have gotten minutes, and only 2 people have scored, and only 1 person scored more than 1 basket. Yeah. And I think Peyton Watson,
and he shot 33%.
He's got to be more aggressive. Yeah, and Christian Brown getting 9 shots and only being 33%, not great. But I just love to see the aggressiveness from him. I'd like to see more of that from Peyton Watson. But the bench is just a mess, and hopefully Murray coming in can get them in sync. I think Reggie Jackson, while not my favorite option off the bench, he is an important option off the bench for our team, and his success off the bench means success for the rest of the team.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I think a lot of times we talk about how good our bench defense is with Peyton Watson and Christian Brown, but 32 points from the Clippers bench this game. And that's not good.
Yeah, Powell coming off the bench for them is big.
Yeah.
But moving on, now we're looking at the Atlanta Hawks. This is the win we needed to see versus a team like the Hawks.
Definitely.
The Hawks always have some toughness, but obviously not the same level of competitiveness that the Denver Nuggets possess and just the talent overall right now. So this should have been an open and shut case, and that's exactly what we got. We got a 32-point victory against the Hawks, and I love to see that, especially when we look at a game like the Spurs, where that's a team that should have had a similar ending based on their record. And now,
how the game was going early on.
Yeah, there was a lot of control in that game. So it's just good to see them get that rebound. Good overall production from everyone. Like I said, Contavious got 24 points, plus 21 on the stat sheet. MPJ with 20. Good to see 2 people ahead of Jokic on the scoring sheet. Christian Brown with the start for this game.
Making the start.
Not so great production, but solid. 2 for 3, 1 for 1 on 3, 3 rebounds and assist. So he's making the most of his time, plus 13 as well. So just a good game to see from the guys. This is the win that we needed. Peyton Watson with 13, Reggie Jackson with 18 off the bench. That type of Nuggets team is going to be really tough to beat.
Jokic with the classic 19, 14, and 11 triple-double.
Yeah,
just some insane random numbers.
Yeah. And that's just even further proof for Jokic.
In a 32-point win, mind you.
Yeah, one thing that was a little concerning, 6 for 13 for him. I mean, he's usually like a 70% and above guy.
Yeah.
And so seeing him kind of shoot a little worse, I know his hand's been hurting. Hopefully,
I think Capella's pretty physical and pretty big.
Yeah, that's true.
Honestly, he probably just was like, you know what, we're dominating this team. I'm hitting everyone with passes this game.
Yeah, I think it's more so just the being under 50% shooting for me.
Yeah, I understand.
And
that.
I know the bigger guys can sometimes give Jokic some problems, but
no one can guard him when he wants to turn it on.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and he didn't need to. 32 point win.
That's
Jokic
just why I'm
isn't
not
out
worried.
there to be famous or score a bunch of points or get talked about. He's there to get the victory, and so he let the game come to him and his teammates. Did a really great job. Plus 19 in the stat sheet. Really, really good overall. I mean, this again, I can't say this enough. This is just the type of victory that we want to see from the Nuggets, especially when they're playing a Hawks team.
100%.
They don't have much of a test coming up with the Jazz. I mean, every game's important, especially with what we've got coming up. But the real concern is the Timberwolves on the horizon.
Yeah, I think that's going to be tough. And to kind of keep going with the Hawks game, Reggie had 18 and 3 assists. So if he can keep playing like that to that level while coming off the bench, I think we'll be okay against the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I think the key for Reggie Jackson's success is intelligent shot making.
Yeah.
Ensuring that he's taking the right shot, because some of the stuff I've seen from him, especially most recently, and that's been concerning for me, is just his shot selection has just been terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible shot selection, trying to be the guy when he's 5 or 6 slots down on the scoring.
And 5 or 6 years past that.
Right, exactly. So for me, it's like you need to know when you're hitting and when you're not, and you need to take the right shots.
You need to go from there.
And this was a great game for him. 24 minutes, 18 points, 7 for 13, 3 for 3, or 3 for 6 from three-pointer. So that's the kind of game we need to see from Jackson. If we're
especially come the playoffs. Yeah,
that's the thing. Is he going to be able to do this against a top team?
I'm not sure. And
I'm not sure either.
speaking of, is he going to be able to do this against a playoff team? Peyton Watson, 13 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists, 5 blocks, and a steal.
5 blocks is crazy.
Played great and was 6 for 8 from the field. I mean, are we going to get that in the playoffs from Peyton Watson, or are we going to get the Clippers game from Peyton Watson where he has got 2 points and he's 1 for 3?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it's going to be a big question mark.
He's young.
Think it's going to be sometimes, second year in the league, and I think that he is such an important spark plug off the bench, especially on that defensive end, because, man, the blocks that he does produce are just electric.
They're nuts.
They're nuts, and they get the team going, they get the bench going, and I think Reggie and him both. It's like Peyton Watson on the defensive end, Reggie on the offensive end, and then just ensuring that Christian Brown and Watson get a chance to contribute.
Yeah, definitely.
This has been Nuggets Now with Beyond Sports. Follow us on social media, Beyond Sports 5280. Call into the show live at 720-446-8463. We've got a great edition of Nuggets Knowledge coming up after this short break. Tune in after this.